All right, welcome back, guys, to Ministry Corner. This is episode 2 with Jermaine Generette. We're talking about selling cars for Jesus, where the rubber meets the road. And so, Jermaine, I want to use our time wisely here. So, I've been wanting to have this conversation with you for so long on camera because of the first time we had this conversation about how you sell cars to people. Because it's not like you have a whole bunch of conversations with salesmen about how they do it. And I would say up front, I was impressed with what you shared. I don't say that to like somehow raise this conversation's expectations. And at the same time, I think I've shared with you recently, it's disappointing that I have to be, that my response is to be impressed, right? Because this is the way it always ought to be. But I really want to talk about your technique. And so bringing in ethics and morals, we already talked about this in the last episode. You've got your values, you align with the word. The Lord, Jesus Christ, is your number one on the totem pole for who you're serving when you're in the car lot and in the dealership working on paperwork. So when it comes to somebody coming in, let's create a scenario so a little easier to talk around. We work right outside Fort Liberty, formerly Fort Bragg, for those who need to hear it that way. You get a 21-year-old soldier. He just came back from his first deployment. He's got $8,000 cash he's ready to put down, and he is wanting to get the car of his dreams. He wants to get that souped-up SRT package Dodge Charger, right? How do you approach that with this young man coming in here, knowing he's a specialist, knowing that he's only got this money because he was on deployment and what his real paycheck's like and what he's probably doing? How do you approach that from the beginning? Can you kind of walk us through how you bring your values into the actual sale?
Absolutely. So knowing, I'm from here, my dad was in the military, understanding the military and basically a budget that they should have. My responsibility is at that time for that soldier, period. Knowing that he has somebody to answer to too when he goes on base with that SRT. So what I always do, I always take my role first. I'm here to guide you through the process, and I'm going to make this whole interaction just smooth and seamless, right?
So this is what you say to the customer.
Yeah, okay. I state my role.
Right on.
All right, and then now knowing he's a 21-year-old specialist, knowing that I have kids, I already know how much that scat pack costs. Oh, absolutely. That's about 50 grand, close to 45 to 50 grand.
You're hurting me.
So I'm just like, okay, knowing him being a specialist, his budget should be maybe, just say I throw one out there, about 500 tops a month. He's got 8 grand. Do I think this is a wise purchase? Number 2, what is his budget? So I'm going to ask you your budget. So if he comes to me saying, hey, I'm a specialist, hey, man, you know what, though? I'm cool with $800 a month. Now I know there's a problem because if I send him on base and his first sergeant was going to probably ask him, hey, how much does this car cost? Oh, I'm paying $790 a month. Now I know I'm going to have to see him and first sergeant. So
so this has happened before?
Brother, this is how I tell them.
Leadership shows up for the turn the car back in, huh?
I would say, hey, sir, I have a great relationship with my military and first sergeants. I said, this right here is going to be a little out of your budget. And here, now, this is when the conversations really start. And I'm like, well, hey, I want it. Well, sir, based off of this, so what I do, y'all, is I have a payment calculator. I like to show you what you're getting yourself into first. Yeah. So is there another way? Of course. I can just run his credit and show him exactly what it is and ding his credit. I don't like doing that. So what I like to do is show you on your calculator, soldier, this is what around about you're looking at. And then I ask him, are you comfortable with that? Yeah. Okay. Sir, do you really understand what you're getting yourself into? Yes. At that point, it's okay, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And then the third one, I'll say, hey, you understand that I don't want you to get a counseling statement because of you coming on base with this car. The only thing you can do, just like in our walk of life, for example, we're telling somebody about sin. You can warn them. You can really warn them. Then you can strongly warn them.
Right.
After that, there's nothing else much I can do.
Right. And so this is again kind of going back to those priorities, right? You're trying to do as much as you can for that
Yes.
person who's, as far as I think our conversation went, he's third on the totem pole, right? God, family you're providing for and going home to with a clear conscience, and then the customer, right? So third person on the totem pole, but you still got people that are above him, right? So you've instructed him as many times as you think are necessary
Yep.
and are good for his benefit.
Yep.
He says, dude, I want to pull the trigger. Why are you wasting my time? I'm a grown man.
Oh, yeah.
What do you end up doing? Do you sell the car that's a bad deal for him?
What I do, I got a good buddy. He's a master sergeant, but I can't call him at that time because then you're giving away information. You can't do that either.
Okay.
So you sometimes, guess what? You got to sell him that car. But I've done everything I've done to stop you from doing whatever it is. Think of it like this: selling a car is almost like it was funny. I use this about Israel asking for a king. They had a king. They warned him, hey, this, and this. This will happen. You can only warn somebody so much. And it's an old saying, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. Sometimes people aren't going to know something until they get burnt.
Until they find themselves in the hole, right? Yeah.
So at that time, I've done everything I know that I can righteously to do what I needed to do. The decision is ultimately theirs.
Right. Yeah, and so that's the thing. So there is a responsibility on both ends, right?
Yes.
You came to work to sell
Yes.
cars. He came to you to buy a car. Do you ever find yourself in a position where you're like, I can't sell you this car. I got to walk away from this. I have to hand you off to somebody else. Does that ever occur? Or is it no, my family and my Lord, they come before him. I've done all I can for him.
Yes.
He wants the sale. I'll give him the sale.
Yeah.
So how do you work that?
Yeah. So there is a policy, the fair lending credit policy. You cannot deny nobody credit.
Okay.
You can't by law. So if you tell me, hey, brother, I want to buy this car, I can't tell you no. You're not.
So you could literally face accusation of, hey, you're discriminating against me.
Absolutely. You better believe.
Really? So this is an actual threat or vulnerability you sit under every day, and even attempting to give somebody the best counsel and mentorship through this.
Yep.
Every time.
You got that policy. So, but what you can do is give them a strong argument of sometimes why they should buy a car. If you spent $7,000 in repairs in the last 2 months, and your car is
going to be another $5,000 in the next 6 months. Yeah.
That's times that you got to say, hey, my friend, your car, it's time to upgrade, and I understand, but I try to always look long term. And I was always told, you making a money decision, you got to think at least 5 years in advance. I'm a big believer of being debt free, but there's sometimes a person doesn't have a choice.
Agreed.
They don't have
fully
a
support
choice.
that conclusion. Yeah.
But in that case of giving them that advice of hey, you shouldn't or you should, I'm going to do what I can to tell you to be honest, because like we talked about a little while ago, how would you want somebody to treat your child?
Yeah. Well, and so that was, I was going to get to that question. So we talked off camera. I asked you, if you had to sum up how you treat every customer that comes in, do you treat them like the president? Do you treat them like they're your boss? Do you treat them like they're your child? And you said like your child.
Like my child, because the way I look at it, and I've seen this, with other consultants. You're my responsibility, period. Why? Because I sold you the car. So it's a sense of ownership and knowing that, hey, you've trusted me to spend $30,000 of your money. That's a big commitment, and it's the next biggest commitment next to buying a house. It's important. So I want to make sure that you feel valued. If I value again, here we go again. You value God, you're gonna value people, and I'm gonna love you, and that time of me selling a car, the way I've looked at it, excuse me, over the years, the car is not sometimes the reason a person is there in front of you. So I'm going to walk you through this car sale, but it's also a time that we can talk about Jesus. If it's something, there's many times I have not sold a car that I have talked you out of it and said, hey, sir, I don't think this is a wise purchase. Let me tell you why. And that conversation turns in now into a conversation about Jesus. So is it a fine line? Yes, it is. But I felt like in my experience that the good Lord has given me, a lot of people, they choose to listen to my advice. And there's many times, again, you're not going to get the sale. But it's not always about the sale. And that's the hardest thing to let my young people know in sales. It's not always about the sales. It could be a divine encounter. But you got to have the wisdom to understand which is which.
Well, and as you spoke about, I think in the first episode is, if you treat the customer right, if you literally are serving them, they're likely to bring back family, friends, recommend you, maybe even make a social media post about this crazy car salesman that didn't want to sell them a car and instead, had a conversation with them about something more important.
Absolutely.
Whatever. He saved him from a bad deal, whatever it may be, right? So, one, I just want to say thank you for how you do that. Now I want to kind of flip it. Have you ever found yourself upselling somebody for their own good? And what I mean by that, so let's say, you got a young couple. They got 2 kids and one in the oven. They're looking to come get a new car, right? One that's going to be bigger for their expanding family. But as we spoke about before off camera, vehicles. Like you don't just sell them, you know them. You pay attention to what's reliable, what are the good things and the bad things about each model and everything on the lot. So somebody wants to come in and they want to get they want to get a used Ford Explorer. It's going to be, let's just call it $400 even a month, right, for 5 years. But hey, there's a much better vehicle if they would just, end up financing $415 a month. It'd be so many miles cheaper. Like, do you end up ever saying, you know what, guys, I want to get you the best deal, and I hear your needs, but because I know the intricacies of what's on my lot right now, I know a better car, it's just going to cost you a little bit more. Do you ever do that?
Yes. When it comes to something like this, a lot of times the customer will have a car already picked out. So, for example, say if it was a 2016 Ford Explorer, 89,000 miles. Okay, this is where integrity can come in right here too. Now, the older the car, the higher the APR. The newer the car, the lower. So what I would do is say, hey, look, based off the interest rate, because I love to educate. I know I'm a teacher. So I try to train them as if I'm training them to do my job. So I'm like, hey guys, look, there's a 2020, give me, for example, Chrysler Pacifica that is about $3,000 more, but because it's newer, your interest rate, you're going to be saving about $60. You're going to be probably paying $40, $45 more dollars, but you're going to have a newer car with 50,000 less miles. That is where you sit here and your product. A responsibility of mine, being a car salesman, being a consultant, being a sales professional, is to get you something that's going to last you longer. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to say, hey, this can be better. It's a little bit more money, but this is going to be a better investment long term. So I do that a lot because why? That same 2016 Ford Explorer, 89,000 miles, the shelf life on that vehicle is going to be shorter.
Right.
If something tears up on it, who you think they're going to call? It's going to be me. So you're protecting the client. You're protecting you too, because you want them in something that's going to last them longer. And you're protecting your rep, because if something breaks down too, hey, he sold me a terrible vehicle. No, I'm selling you a vehicle that I know is going to last you longer. It's going to be more cost effective. You're looking for the long-term aspects of it. So just think about it.
So do you even take model or make into consideration when advising people?
Absolutely.
You do? Okay.
Absolutely. So
you look at price, miles, model, make, all these things because of what you know.
Yes.
To give them the best recommendation possible.
Yes, and you give them the information. Hey, just want to give you a heads up. Around about 130,000 miles. These are known for transmissions. I recommend extended service plan. That way you're covered. And it's just doing it right.
Now I got to ask, do you ever not recommend the extended service plan?
It depends. So my job, of course, I got to sit here, and I am. Yeah, you want to sell an extended service plan.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we talked offline. I bought a brand new Volkswagen Passat R-Line. I got a 4-year, 50,000 mile plan. Manufacturer warranty.
Yeah.
Under 30,000 miles, my window motor went out, my radio went out in a brand new car. I've seen crazy stuff happen. So would I do it? Yeah. Why? That gives me peace of mind. Do you get paid extra for it? Yes. But who's going to be happier, a person who doesn't have a plan or the one who does if something happens? And to me, I feel like it's a common sense thing.
Okay.
But is it harder if a Honda Civic with 900 miles on it? Come on, man. It's not really a discussion about that. So, but you want to do the things that are in the scope, like you were saying, the employer. The employer has goals and initiatives too, but you got to weigh what
they are on the totem pole.
They are on the totem pole.
They matter.
They matter a lot, but your integrity is going to matter more. But yes, you want to sit here and protect your customer because in the end game, you're responsible for them.
Right on. I like it. All right. So can you give us one funny story or a good story about where this approach to counsel somebody out of a bad deal went well for you and them?
I would say, let me see.
I know I'm putting you on the spot.
No, I'm just thinking. A lot, man. Young soldiers. Actually, it was not. It was a young lady.
Okay.
And she was getting financed, and the insurance was going to be like $600 a month. And at that point, the car payment, the insurance was more than the car payment. Something like that, you got to say, ma'am, it's not worth it. Many times, my young soldiers, E3s, you know you can't send them on there with 500 payments. But again, here we go again. You can only give them the best advice.
Right.
There was one young lady, I remember talking her out. She didn't get a car, but she was, I would just say this, what was that? What was it? Bennettsville. It was one young lady I helped, and did she get a car or not? I can't remember if she did get one, but she sent me, it seemed like the entire city of Bennettsville. And because I treated her good, it's not about the sale. It sounds so cliche-ish. But again, what is going to be your motivation in the end?
Right.
Your motivations are going to be on center stage, good or bad.
Yeah. Well, and you kind of touched on it, right? You were saying it from the perspective of buying a car, right? You always look long term. Same thing for selling a car. That's your approach. You're looking at the long term, right? Long term benefits are I gain a reputation over time with more and more people, like first sergeants, like a family member who knows family members in Bennettsville, right? And so it'd be very easy to make the sale if you're interested in the short term gain, right?
Yep.
Very easy. But meanwhile, here you are 10 years in to an industry that turns people over at an alarming rate.
Yes.
You got good practice, you got good morals, you got a good customer reputation. And we even talked recently about hey, you could literally go sell cell phones and maybe make, 50% more, 100% more.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you said, you know what, I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Yep. It took me years.
You said it through gritted teeth a little bit.
Yeah, because
we were talking about the money that was available, right?
So remember, again, the motivation. What's your motivation?
Yeah.
Gosh, man, one gentleman that he used to work there, he went to cell phones, but he gave me a great quote, And he said, it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep. And what they meant by that is, it's not the amount of money you make, it's what do you do with it. And so could I make more money? Possibly. But it took me a long time to really realize, I would say within the last 7 years, that's my ministry where I'm at.
Yeah.
And yeah, does it grit my teeth? You can make more on a cell phone than a car.
Yeah.
Yes. However, it's not about how much I make. It's what are you doing with what you make?
Right. And while you make it.
And while you make it.
As we see with what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, man, I think it's really cool. I think it's awesome because, and even if you did like make that transition, right? You're like, you know what? I am going to chase the money. It's my turn, whatever. My family's in dire need. I want my wife to put her feet up and work on being a grandma or whatever pretty soon, something like that, right? There's a difference in somebody buying $1,000 cell phone, somebody buying a $20,000 or $30,000 or $40,000 car, right? This is a life-changing moment. People are a little more open to receive some things. People are going to, exchange a cell phone in minutes and wonder why it took so long, right? Yeah. But that car, they come in knowing that they're going to have some conversations, expecting it to be painful. You get to make it less than painful for some of them, right? And it is a life-impacting moment financially and in many cases for you spiritually. Yes. So that's awesome. And again, this episode, this is really the reason why I wanted to bring you and have this conversation in the first place. Because again, I'm just so impressed with the fact that you're able to do this on a regular basis. It wasn't like, man, I tried this new thing last month and I had a great testimony. Like, no, this is how I live my sales life. And we're going to get into the next couple episodes about how challenging that really is and the pressure that puts on. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this segment. And guys, we'll see you back for episode 3 next week. So stay tuned.